So here we are, Glenn,
Yes, indeed, yeah.
for another episode of the More Than Mostly Comedy podcast. It's more than mostly comedy, and it's a podcast.
Exactly.
Yeah.
More than just mostly comedy, because I've forgotten what mostly comedy is, to be honest, at this point.
No idea. I'm not entirely sure. I think it's a tax dodge. I'm not entirely certain anymore.
Yeah.
And also, we've had a little bit of, even though it's the same series, we've had a little bit of a break, haven't we? Because we had our summer hiatus. I mean, everything's a hiatus now, so I don't really know. I didn't notice any different, did you?
No, not really. Just the same sort of stuff. And we're talking about COVID-19, coronavirus, whatever you want to call it.
By the time you listen to this, probably COVID-23. I don't really know. You know, there would be this whole other thing.
Yeah, but we have been doing the last quite a few podcasts now. In this Zoom state that we're in, so we're doing everything via Zoom. Although we did meet, didn't we, earlier this week? So that was nice.
Day before yesterday.
Yeah, day before.
First time I've seen you in months. In 3 dimensions. It's weird.
Yeah. So I got used to you flattened on a screen, and it was odd. It was odd to see that all sides of you,
all the full detail, and everything.
Yeah.
And also, Glyn, today at this point we're recording this, it is our 12th anniversary, or Mostly Comedy's 12th anniversary.
Yes, not our 12th anniversary. I don't even know what that would be. Or we've gone past
20,
that point.
15, 20 years, I don't know, 40 years, something like that. Well, we sort of unofficially started in 2005, I suppose.
Yeah.
So that's 15 years.
It depends when you started from. If you start from how long we've known each other, then you go back to like 1998,
99, something like that. Yeah. Frightening, isn't it? Pre-decimal.
Crazy times. Yeah. But yeah, it is Mostly Comedy's 12th birthday.
To the very day.
Yeah.
And I was watching the video today. I posted on Twitter.
I saw it, yes. Yeah.
God, we look young.
I know. There's all sorts of things. It was interesting to watch, and I remember. Well, I remember because I saw the video today as well. But the sort of feeling of that gig, because the very first Mostly Comedy, you started it on the night, because I was doing a play in the little theatre around the corner from where we were doing the gig at Mostly Comedy, the George, and I came straight from the show I was doing, where I'd been playing a Dracula type character, dressed as a Dracula type character, and sung "Take on Me" by Aha, where I completely destroyed my voice. It's never been the same since. Really. Yeah, but that was my first Mostly Comedy intro, and it was surreal to watch, but it's nice. I like that. I liked it. It was good fun.
Yeah, and it's quite nice that we've got an actual video of that particular gig. And I remember, we were sort of fortunate with Mostly Comedy, because from the very beginning, it was packed for one.
Yeah.
But it kind of worked from the beginning, didn't it? I mean, obviously it got better, and it's always a bit cringeworthy when you watch yourselves, the way we sort of present ourselves compared to what we would do now, maybe. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it always kind of worked from the beginning. We're kind of fortunate as well. And also it's nice as well because my dad's in the video as well, which is nice to see.
Yeah, I like that. And you can and you really see him enjoying it as well, which is funny.
And laughing, which is
I'm not quite sure why he was standing, though. So I was like trying to work out why he was standing and not sitting down at table.
I think because he was just so busy. And also I think because he arrived with his mates, and they probably arrived a little bit later, it was packed. I remember all the tables were full, and I guess he was just standing at the side. I don't know. Maybe he just knew he'd be in the video.
He just wanted to make sure that 12 years later we'd watch it and see him enjoying it. It's like you will see me enjoying this in 12 years' time.
Exactly. But no, it's nice. It's good.
Yeah.
And tonight we interviewed Isy Suttie.
We did. Yeah.
Which was really. I mean, we say this about all of them, but it was a really nice chat. And also because we've only actually met her once before, because she's only played Mostly once for various reasons,
and quite a long time ago as well, like 2016. So quite a few years ago now. So
and she was due to play one of the gigs in the autumn, but then obviously this year, obviously none of that happened because we're still unable to do gigs, basically, strictly speaking. But yeah, it was another lovely chat, and she's done a heck of a lot of stuff. When you look at her CV and IMDb and stuff, and it was interesting as well to note that, because she talks about it obviously briefly. Well, not obviously briefly, but she talks about it. Peep Show. She was starting that in 2008, so that's when Mostly Comedy started. In fact, wow, yeah, which is quite weird to think, really. And that's when we were doing the balloon debate and stuff, which we talk about. But that's when she went into that, and she sort of said, it's one of her sort of earlier TV things. What have we done in that time, Grim? What have we done?
Well, this is it. Well, I sung "Take on Me," dressed as a Dracula, and from that point, that's where I hit that was my high point, I think.
You say sung. It's not really sung.
Yeah, well, no, it wasn't
shouted.
really.
And you say high point. both literally and metaphorically.
No.
It wasn't really that high.
It wasn't.
It was a high song.
You're right. Yeah, which I didn't ever at all do. Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
But anyway, let's sit back and listen to the interview with Isy Suttie, which we recorded tonight.
Welcome, Izzy. Welcome to the More Than Mostly Comedy podcast.
Yeah,
Thank
good to have
you.
you with
Happy
us.
birthday.
Thank you. 12 years.
I actually got a mini roll and put a candle in it.
Oh, that's
amazing.
But I can't find a lighter because I smoke about maybe 3 cigarettes a year.
Okay.
And I don't go out anymore because of COVID. So I don't need a lighter. But it's here.
So. Could you put it in like a jiffy bag and send it to us?
Yes.
Brilliant.
I'll send you half each.
that'd be lovely.
Half the candle.
Yeah, that'd be lovely.
And then one of us can light it, and the other one will have to sort of cut it down a bit just to get some sort of wick.
Yeah, we can do that.
Perfect.
We can do
Perfect.
Yeah, I suppose you can do that with candles, like when you cut a worm in half and it still lives.
Yeah.
The two halves live.
Yeah, they do. Does it? Yeah. Does the string go all the way through a candle? Is that how they?
That's
Yeah, it must
a really
do, mustn't it?
good
Because they
question.
burn down, don't they?
I think they do, because you don't you sort of dip
Or does
you dip the wick. I think you dip it into the
course,
wax
yeah.
and then the wax solidifies.
Yeah, but on a birthday candle like that, the kind of little tiny. I don't know.
They're not
Well,
really high end.
You don't expect to use them again and again. But I was
No,
thinking
this is it.
actually the other day that you should only, as a parent, need to buy one set of birthday candles and use. It was bad for the environment to throw them away. So I am actually going to. So I'll let you know in 20 years
Yeah,
if
brilliant.
it goes
It's
all the
still
way
there.
down.
Will you have an extra one each time so you don't have one candle that's slightly lower than the rest, or will you?
No, I think I'm just going to. And if they complain, I'll just say, "Why do you hate the environment?"
Yeah, this is the biggest, best excuse ever.
Yeah, blame them for it, really.
Yeah.
I was going to ask. 'Cause you grew up in Matlock, I believe.
Yeah.
I was going to ask, what was the point when the Heights of Abraham sort of lost its luster? Have you been on it a lot, or did?
Has it lost its luster, first of all? I mean, I still, when I'm feeling, especially in lockdown, when I was feeling like really, weird, like most of us were, I often Google image Matlock and Matlock Bath because I didn't really appreciate the beauty of the Peak District when I lived there. I was just like, it hasn't got a cinema. Oh, it's so boring. And now I'm like, oh my God, it was really beautiful. And actually, I was looking at some of the pictures of Heights of Abraham and the cable cars the other day, which if anyone doesn't know what they are, they're like ski lifts, aren't they?
Yeah.
Of cliffs and fields and things and cows.
And it's
Quite
pretty high
weird.
as well, from what I remember. It's pretty. I mean, I was a kid when I went on it, but
Yeah,
it
so me
seemed-
too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So why do you think it's lost its luster? Did you go on it when you were a kid and then you went on it as an adult and were like, why did I think this was good? It's shit.
Yeah. Well, no, it's more of I wondered if it because you come from there. Did you just?
Oh, do you go on it
take it
so
for
many
granted?
Yeah, or do you
Yeah.
just go? Oh, it's just here. I don't really think about it.
Yes, when we lived in the congestion zone, we got a 90% discount when we lived in Elephant and Castle in
Right.
centre of London. So it'd be good if you got a 90% discount for the cable cars, then went on them to school, and then
This
we're like,
is it,
we're just
yeah.
on the cable cars. It's not a big deal.
Yeah, the commute.
No, I feel like I didn't go on them enough to feel that they'd lost their luster. It was we only ever went on them if people came to stay with us, like our cousins or visitors, and you definitely took people on the cable cars. And then there was a little thing called Gulliver's Kingdom, a bit like Alton Towers, but not quite as good.
Yeah.
I think I went to that.
Yeah.
It
Did
sounds
you?
familiar,
Yeah, it's kind of at the end of the cable cars.
Right. Yeah.
And all the people who operated the rides were from schools. They'd give us free goes, and it was quite easy to climb over the wall. I probably shouldn't say that because I hope they've fortified security now. But it was quite easy to climb over the wall, as I remember. So when I was a little bit older and a little bit naughtier, we used to kind of sometimes climb over the wall and drink cider next to the roller coaster, then climb back out again.
I remember thinking about cable cars. When I went to Allen Bay in the Isle of Wight when I was a kid, and there was like a ski lift.
I love Allen Bay.
It's amazing,
Yeah.
isn't it? And also,
Yeah.
it's still. I mean, where does all that sand come from? It's like, well, I know where it comes from, but you know what I mean. It's still in the stripes. It's
Still in the. I
Do you
know,
think they run
I know.
out all the little things you get? The little
Endless. I know.
Yeah, you buy those things. Is that where in the gift shop you can buy
Yes.
different shaped things and then you fill them with different coloured
Yeah.
sand?
That's right.
Yeah,
Yeah, I had
yeah,
one that was
like
like a
a- yeah.
bell or something. But
Yeah,
But yeah,
yeah. I
but
remember doing that.
I went on there with my dad, and I remember we didn't pull the thing down. So it was only like about halfway up we realised that we're on this even ski lift over the cliffs with no security, which is crazy. So
Yeah, you see, that probably wouldn't. How long ago was that?
oh, that was like 25 years ago, something like
I know.
that.
God, yeah.
Like
You
I
just
remember
wouldn't-
going. I went skiing in Bulgaria when I was probably about 10, and my sister was 6. And firstly, my mum made us ski suits out of 70s duvets, which she sprayed with some kind of waterproof spray. She was like, "I'm not spending money on ski suits. We've never been skiing before as a family. We'll probably never go again. It'll be a disaster." So she made us these ski suits and we looked like such twats, and everyone else had really nice ski suits. But it was so cool, and I've always really loved skiing since then. But I remember going on the cable car of ski lifts then in Bulgaria, and this was probably if I was 10, it was 1988, and we didn't pull the things down either. And I remember going over the little, every few meters you've got a kind of tiny little bump, haven't you?
Yes.
I guess where it goes over the pole that's holding up the string.
Yeah.
And I was like, don't really think if it's the right thing to do to leave the thing up. But I don't think there's many places now that wouldn't go, no, you've got to put the thing down.
Yeah, it's just like a park bench on a wire or something, and it's just
like getting on a park bench, it's just being lifted up by a giant wire. Yeah.
But I don't think I've ever been on a ski. I think I've missed out on that one. I've never.
Have you not been to Allen Bay, Glenn?
I have, but I don't remember going on any lifts at Allen Bay. I don't remember going up in the air. I remember seeing the sand, but I don't remember going up in the air. So I think the Heights of Abraham's is like an enclosed thing, isn't it? It's like an enclosed cable car.
Yes, cable car.
Yes, it is. It's like almost like the London Eye in the sense that you get in and then
Oh yeah, but the view. I do.
We won't
but
just
it's not like the
talk
London
about-
Eye. It's not a circle. It is a string going across the valley. Yeah.
It inspired mine and Glenn's first Edinburgh show as well, funny enough, because
where it came from. Yeah.
We wanted to do a thing where we were stuck in one place, and it was going to be the Heights of Abraham, but then we changed it to a hot air balloon basket, and it was the balloon debate. So that was.
That's pretty cool.
We suddenly realised that the Heights of Abraham, you'd be limited to what you could talk about just in the one place. We're like, well, at least we can move a bit further away if we go on a hot air balloon.
And it's much easier to fake a basket as well than
the Heights of Abraham is actually a hot air balloon on a string, as opposed to
kind of is without the balloon. It's like,
without the balloon, without the fire.
Without
the
a lot less fire.
With less wicker, I imagine.
We were going to talk about the Heights of Abraham for the whole thing. So hopefully that's
this is the Heights of Abraham podcast.
Yeah.
By the way, do go and visit the Heights of Abraham. It is amazing. I suppose it's not open at the moment, is it? But
no.
One day.
Because I was one of those things. I thought, I wonder if that's still open. And then every so often, you go up on the motorway services. There's always flyers for it. So you're like, it's still there. It's still there.
Yeah.
When you were growing up in Matlock, did you sort of know you wanted to perform quite early? And if so, was there an outlet for it there? Was that what did you do?
Yeah, it was actually a really creative place to grow up. There's quite a lot of sort of bands there, and lots of hippies and stuff. Lots of sitting around campfires and people singing songs a cappella and stuff. And the school I went to was. I think now it's called a performing arts school. It's the normal bog standard comprehensive, but I think there's a big focus on the arts. So I was really lucky actually to be in Matlock. And I did always want to perform in some sense. I didn't quite know in what way, I don't think. I used to write songs from quite a young age, from about 10 or 11 when I stopped playing the guitar.
Right.
And then I thought I wanted to be in bands, and I was in bands for a while. I was in lots of bands where we got like pint glasses thrown at us, and bands where we played a bit nicer gigs than that. I was in a prog rock band. We played at the Pavilion in Matlock Bath, and we were so kind of all our songs were like a minimum of 8 minutes long, and we used to project what we thought were really kind of hard hitting images behind us of like pylons and stuff like that. Do
you think it read, or was it just like, why are they doing that?
Do you know what? I think it read so well. They were just stunned into silence and they couldn't clap. No, they were the two other guys in the prog rock band were amazing musicians. And I think we just did a few too many Pink Floyd covers that were like pretty long. But we had some good songs. Like in all the bands that I was in, our hearts were in the right place. And so it was mainly bands and acting. When I was little, I went to youth theatre and stuff, and I used to spend a long time in the mirror doing American accents, but like playing men. I used to do long improvised monologues of like, I don't know, I really loved like Reservoir Dogs and stuff, because that came out when I was perhaps in the sixth form. And so I used to spend a lot of time in the mirror kind of being like, well, why? Why do you want me to go there? I don't know why. I'm just going to go. And just, for ages. So.
It's the sort of thing you think back to and you realise that is, because I used to have, there was like a sort of dresser in our dining room, which we never went in but for Christmas. And it had like glass sort of doors on it. And I used to like mime along to songs into the reflection in the glass. You just think, and like listen, but Sgt. Pepper, because I was a big Beatles fan, but like miming along to that. And you just think, why? I mean, I suppose it follows.
Why didn't you use a mirror? But maybe
I don't know.
You wanted to do it in a way that was like, sometimes you want to do something, but you don't want it to be like, I'm doing this thing. You want to kind of be like, I just happen to be doing it while I can see my reflection.
Yeah, accidental. Or maybe I was going for like the sort of Pepper's Ghost thing. You have like the glass thing, and like, it looked a bit spooky. But I used to spend a lot of time doing that and sitting in between my speakers of my hi-fi just listening. I was an only child, so I think that's probably why.
Well, it sounds good. I mean, it's weird when you look back and you think, I just really wanted to like have an outlet, and then you find a way, don't you? Whether you're growing up in like Luton or, you know, the middle of America or something, you'll find a way to.
It's funny. Do you find as well, because those are the sort of decisions you made very early on in your life, and then you find yourself sort of sticking to those things and following that path? Yeah,
but I've always been so sure that I wanted to perform and write in some sense. I didn't quite know in what capacity when I was younger. I didn't necessarily think I'd do stand up. I loved things like Brass Eye and The Day Today. I loved Bottom, and I really loved The Simpsons, and so I definitely used to watch French and Saunders and stuff, Smack the Pony. So there were lots of things that I liked, but I didn't necessarily think that was a viable career, because I didn't know anyone who kind of did comedy, whereas I knew like there was youth theatre and stuff, so that was kind of the way I did it. Although I used to write sketches as well, but but I'm quite stubborn, and I've always put work until I had kids, which has sort of changed me fundamentally. I think work came before everything, even sort of on a par with relationships and ahead of some relationships.
Right, yeah.
I won't say which. Sorry, mate, you didn't make it. You're not on a par with work.
Yeah.
I'm going to do a gig in Reading for £40.
Yeah.
And then when I worked at Oddbins, I worked in the call centre for Oddbins for years, and I had lots and lots of different jobs. Like I was a cleaner, I worked in lots of call centres. I sort of had this job where I had to ring doctors and surgeons, sometimes who were in the middle of performing operations, and if they couldn't answer, ask their secretaries to page them and carry out these medical surveys. So it would be like on behalf of a company who makes drugs for stroke victims, and be like, can I just ask you 5 questions about, and at the end you'll get a £20 M&S voucher, and they'd be like, I'm in the middle of performing. So I had some really interesting and weird jobs, and then every night more or less I'd go and do a gig, and I'd get like 3 hours sleep, then get up and go and do the job again, and I just loved it. And you know what it's like, you just fall in love with it, don't you? And
I'm still trying to work out why they'd be answering the phone when they're doing an operation.
I know. So
blaming you.
There was a I know exactly. It wasn't my fault. I was trying to get enough money to get the tube home, basically. But I think what used to happen is we'd get through to like a switchboard, and then our supervisor was always very insistent that we had to ask their secretaries to page them, as if it was something really urgent. And we did often get them out of consultations or people procedures.
People actually died because you were asking them questions about really blessed.
Because someone was trying to get an M&S voucher.
Voucher. They're like, well, I've now. It's it. They're dead now.
That's horrendous. But M&S is great, right?
So you wouldn't argue with M&S voucher, really, would you?
No, I'd understand that. I do appreciate it.
So you were always interested into comedy. So did you not necessarily feel that was the way you go? Or was it just, was it band first, or was it comedy first? Because did you go to Guildford?
Yeah, I went to Guildford, and I don't know really. I think I always really loved making people laugh, and when I look back, whether I would like to make it clear that no one did die because of M&S vouchers, at least not because of any M&S vouchers that were on my watch. I did go, like, when I was at youth theatre, and I remember going to this thing at Edinburgh Festival, because my dad was Scottish, we used to go to Edinburgh every year, and that was amazing. So although I mostly watched theatre, I used to really love Burkoff's stuff up there, and so I suppose comedy stuff, but I used to quite like kind of quite dark comedy stuff, or kind of sometimes quite avant-garde stuff. And I went to this thing in Edinburgh once, which was where I went to this summer school, I guess, when I was about probably 10 or 11, and I went every day and we did a show at the end of the week, and I did a kind of sketch in it, and I kind of fell into it without realizing this sketch, and then the audience laughed at this. Someone had to walk past a park, but I still remember it. I had to be sitting on a bench, and someone had to walk past, and I had to do like a weird look to the audience, then a look back, like, what's going on with this person? And they all laughed, and that was the first time I remember making an audience laugh. And it was amazing, that feeling. But then I didn't necessarily think that I'd do comedy. I always thought I'd do Mike Leigh films in that way, that when we were at college, we were so me and my friend used to sit there and go, yeah, I'm going to do Mike Leigh film and then I think a Ken Loach film, or maybe the other way round. And then we graduated and we were like, oh, I'm doing my 4th TIE show, playing a duck for the second time this year. So yeah, sometimes, I mean, it's amazing in a way to have that optimism and hope. I'm glad that I had it once. But I think my idea then was that I would do things like Mike Leigh, which are both funny and moving and sort of terrifying at times, and they're the kinds of things that I really love, and I suppose I'm still drawn to doing. Like I know that my stand-up isn't really terrifying, but I think what I mean is I love examining sort of the fragility of life or the kind of mundanity of relationships at the same time as being funny about them. And my favourite stand-up is Phil Kay, because I think
he's our hero.
Yeah,
we love him.
He's so funny, isn't he? And then he's also he's so theatrical, and he makes you feel somehow that you're capable of anything when you're watching him. Like and I find it very moving. I cry sometimes when I'm watching him because I sort of feel he's saying something very profound about life. I hope that doesn't sound too wanky, but I really do feel like that.
Agree. Yeah. I remember one time seeing him in Edinburgh, and I think it's the first time I'd seen him properly. And I laughed so much. I felt like my soul was going to escape. It was just it was extraordinary. And I remember sort of saying to him after, you know, it's just because he's so intelligent while also being ridiculous and all those things. But the way he tells a story, there's something really magical about it. We've had him. It was sort of the first bigger act we had at Mostly that we really wanted, and it was only because, like, he mentioned his email address in a gig, so I get that down. But he's just amazing. You do have to hide everything in the venue though when he comes.
Oh God, he's a liability. I mean, like in terms of performing he just pulls things apart. People would play with it. Yeah, we're
doing it at venues Hitchin Town Hall now, and they had like this massive clock in the wings. It was sort of like the Back to the Future clock, and I had to say to like the staff, you might want to move that because he'll find it. But then I neglected to remember there's like a massive throne there as well, which he pulled out.
He moved that, didn't he?
You do. He's like, you'll see a ladder and you go, yeah, he'll pick that up and bring it on. But he is, and his books are great as well. I don't know if you've read his books.
I've got one and I've read bits of it. It's fantastic. I need to. Yeah. I've got a collection of books that I in lockdown have gone. These, because I don't get that much time to read with 2 young kids, and it's on that pile. I love the bits I've read of it. I got into this weird thing in lockdown where I had this pile of books and that I knew would be amazing, but the only books that I could read were thrillers by female writers, and that wasn't a kind of choice at the beginning of lockdown of this is what I'm going to do. It was like I couldn't concentrate on anything except for quite kind of don't know how, like punchy plots where I didn't have to like think loads and loads and loads. Not saying that those plots aren't intricately constructed, but it's just quite different from reading a book about, say, a relationship where it goes right into the depths of why it's going wrong stuff. It's more like everything's moving really quickly. Oh my God, what's going to happen next? They were literally the only books I could read. I couldn't read books by anyone I knew. It was really weird. And so I've discovered some amazing writers of books of a genre that I actually hadn't really had much experience of reading. Just for whatever reason, I've always been drawn to, I suppose, I love Ian McEwan and I love things like Phil Kay. I love books by people, comics and funny books and stuff. So it's
have you read much Robert Harris books?
No.
He's brilliant. I'm sure if you like that sort of thing, because it's exactly that, like real sort of thriller but just drags you along with it. There's a really good one, Archangel it's called, and it's about Stalin and about Stalin's son that you don't realise is still alive. And but really, all of his stuff's great.
Brilliant.
He's the guy who wrote Enigma and stuff as well. But yeah, he's really, really good.
Great.
How have you found, the inevitable question, how have you found the whole lockdown and everything situation?
Well, I feel like I think for most people it's been, because we still don't know how long it's going to be. And at the beginning we didn't know, did we? I think that's the worst thing about it, that if someone had gone, it's going to be like this, and it's going to be hard for, even if they said 5 years, I genuinely think that would have been better than just going forward and going, oh my God, when is this going to... I found that aspect of it really, really hard, not knowing what was ahead. And then, of course, on a day-to-day basis, it was difficult, and it was lovely in some ways. It was extremely stressful in some ways with a young family. We've got no gardens. We're trying to move house now, but everyone wants gardens and we haven't got one. So we're like, please will you buy our flat with no garden? And but like the kids just wanted to be outside, and it was hard to sort of explain. One of them because he can't talk apart from saying E-I-E-I-O, and the other one because she found it quite upsetting that we couldn't go outside and we couldn't see their friends and stuff. And there were some really lovely moments as well, and we all ate together, and me and Ellis started having lunch at 11:30 a.m. and dinner at 5 p.m. And we were
that's my life. Yeah, that's
that's like proper adults. All of a sudden,
yeah, exactly. That's the mark of being a true parent, isn't it?
It is. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm there often at the childminder, so I'm like, yes, I have lunch at 1 p.m. I'm 42, and then suddenly I was like, no, this is what happens when you're with your kids all the time. Like some people are, you have your lunch at 11:30. Like in some ways, it was quite eye-opening like that, because a lot of us work, don't we? At least some of the time.
This is it.
Yeah. When Steffi was a baby, my son, I took more time off, so I hadn't been working as much, and I think that it was easier for me to go into lockdown from that than perhaps before I had kids, or when I just had Betty, when I did work more when I just had Betty for some reason. And I think it would have been such a harsh kind of change, whereas I was already quite used to being in and stuff like that. But yeah, I feel like now it's not as much of it doesn't feel as, there's not as much novelty, is there? Like we're in the second wave, and I often wondered what it would be like if there was a second wave. But I suppose you realise that life has to go on, and you have to earn money, and you have to, whereas at the beginning it was weird, wasn't it? It was just like everything stopped.
Yeah. It's easier I found it easier when everything stopped, because
Did you?
Because everything stops and then you're all in the same situation. Whereas now it's that weird thing of, depending on who you are and whether you've got children or not got children, everyone's doing different things. So we're taking our kids to school and nursery every day, which is really normal. And then I manage a little theatre, so I'm trying to get a theatre back on its feet. And there's certain things that feel really normal, but then other people, for whatever reason, are sort of still not really doing a lot. And it's a very strange sort of flip from one to the other. It's just it makes it feel more. I feel more uneasy about this.
Yeah,
now
I know what you mean.
Than I did before.
Yeah, you have to because Ellis has got Crohn's disease, so he's on immunosuppressants and he isn't a high risk. But at the beginning, he got that letter saying you are high risk, just because I think they sent out this blanket letter, and it was like stay 3 feet away from everyone in your household and stuff. And I was like, wow. Oh my God, we've got a 1-year-old. How are we going to? And then he was like, no, obviously that's not possible, but let me ring my consultant. Anyway, the bottom line was it's all right. He isn't high risk. It's easier for us than it is for the people who are high risk. And I think that that's a really difficult situation for them to be in now, where things are easing back to normal in inverted commas for some people. And you feel like you've got to justify your decisions, whereas actually you haven't. You're doing the best for you. I feel protective of Ellis, and I won't do things that some of my friends will do. And I sometimes feel, not that they would ever say, why aren't you doing that? It's totally fine, but it sometimes just makes me a bit sad that people have varied reasons for not doing stuff or doing stuff. It could be a medical reason, it could be just a psychological reason. It's everything. And I think it can be tricky negotiating those situations and kind of working out whether to explain things or not, or just going, I don't feel comfortable doing that. And I know what you mean. In a way, when everyone's in the same boat, you go, we're not allowed to do that. There we go.
There's a simple rule, whereas now the rules are so all over the place, and everyone, like you say, everyone has their own version of what they feel comfortable doing, what they don't feel comfortable doing. So you have to sort of judge everyone in a sense now. It's like dropping the kids off at school for the first day back at term, and I was like, some parents wearing masks, some aren't wearing masks. What's the right thing to do here? Should I be wearing a mask? You kind of I'm sort of analysing what's the right situation. It's such a weird environment. You're like, why would I?
It's having responsibility as well, isn't it? Because I think when the whole country's doing it, you feel like you know what you should be doing, but because the message is so sort of confusing, and you feel responsible for what you do, but also, like you're sort of saying, you feel like you have to explain, because it's so easy for people to forget and just go back to normality. So someone will be in your space, and then you have to sort of point out the awkwardness of, I need to do this. So it's
and it's that you sort of you feel like you have to go, I don't think you've got it.
Yeah.
Somehow that would be a stain on their character. But if they did have it and were asymptomatic, like someone I know was, and it was such a shock for them when they found out they had it, they only got tested because they were going to visit an elderly relative. It's not their fault. So even if you are saying, look, I think you might have it, that's not a diss.
No.
You know, you could just as well be saying, I think I might have it and I might not know, you know. God, it's so hard.
I had someone come and I met someone a few weeks ago, and he went to shake my hand, and it just completely went to do it, and I had to say to him, no, I'm not really comfortable doing that. But I felt so bad saying. But
maybe he was doing it automatically. Maybe
he sort of was, but
thinking about it.
But I was like, I've never felt so awful. Like just meeting someone. He was a lovely bloke, but the first thing I had to say to him was, "Don't shake my hand." No, but not in that way. But just kind of had to say, "Don't do that," which is such an odd thing to do.
It's like you're Diana Ross or something.
Yeah. I don't do this. Yeah.
My friend directed Christina Aguilera once. That sounds so, but he did, and he's so not that kind of person. But he got this sort of jammy job directing her in something or other, and she had this big entourage with her, and he was just sort of doing the final checks and the lighting and stuff like that. And then she had a lock of hair in her eye, so he reached forward just to push out of her eye, and she went, "Don't touch the hair."
Oh no!
So I mean, imagine people like that in Corona. They'd just be like, "Don't come within 6 feet."
Yeah.
I remember reading I get
in quite early with people and say, I say, isn't it weird that we can't hug now?
Yeah.
So I just get it down a bit. And do the sort of weird elbow bumping or the foot.
Yeah.
Have you done that? The foot.
The foot. Thing? I've done the elbow. I've not done the foot yet.
Say the foot. So I did a podcast with lovely Giles Paley Phillips, his podcast, the day before I think lockdown started. So it was like maybe the Friday, and then there was a weekend where we were all like, is it going to happen? I don't know if you can remember, it was so long ago now. And then it kind of started the week after. So it was the last thing that I did really before lockdown. And they did the feet thing. And I was like, oh, okay. And that's the first time I did it. And I've done it a few times with my friend Chris. And yeah, it's quite cool actually to balance on one foot, and then you kind of put the soles of your feet together.
That's that is quite impressive as well. So that's I might try that next time.
Is it because like germs don't carry on feet or something and elbows? It's just
like, well, I mean, I'm making it sound as if your feet are naked. Like I'm making it sound like you've got no shoes on, which actually is quite intimate. Let's put the soles of our feet together. You're like literally on the street, kind of trying to balance while you fall into people and go, "Oh, this is defeating the object of social distancing." I'm falling into other people while I try to balance.
I might practice that with my kids, though. I think my kids would love that. Just the novelty.
Speaking of Christina Aguilera as well, I remember reading somewhere, I think it's Seal, the singer Seal, he doesn't do a handshake, he just do hugs, apparently. You get a hug from Seal. But not anymore, but apparently, that's what he does.
What does he do now? Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's quite nice, I think.
He's finding it very hard at the moment.
Well, yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's the thing. But when people are like that, though, the Christina Aguilera thing, you think, what the hell? I mean, seriously.
I know.
No one has any right to be like that, surely.
Yeah, she could have been having. You never
she does
know
now.
Well,
but she maybe had a traumatic experience with someone touching her hair, and like I don't know. But yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah. I'd never be like that, no matter how big I get, guys.
But I think sometimes with some people, because the problem is, with like if you meet someone very, very famous, and like I'm a big Paul McCartney fan, and I've met him a couple of times, but it can change if someone just has a bad day and you happen to meet them. That can change your perception of them forever. So, and I guess you have that to a degree as well, where people. You know, if you're not always going to be on, you're not always going to be feeling up for it. But obviously, that's the story that people remember. And
that's the hard thing. Yeah, I remember two things that I still feel weird about. One is that when my dad was very ill before he died, I was coming back from Derby, where he was in hospital, back to London, and I had a phone conversation with a friend about it, probably a long time, maybe 45 minutes. And then when I got to London, I got off, and the guy who'd been sitting behind me was like, "Oh, hi, Izzy, I really like your work," or whatever. And I just thought, oh my God, you've heard that. And I thought, it's really hard because I'm not at a level where I get recognised every day or anything like that. And in a sense, I think, is it easier if you are very, very famous and you've got this kind of awareness all the time that you couldn't have a conversation like that unless you were prepared for people to hear? But it sometimes catches you unawares and you go, okay, that's just a bit weird that you've heard all that. And so I feel sort of odd about that. And then the other time I was in Nando's on the Elephant and Castle roundabout when I lived there. And I was really drunk with my best friend from home, Caroline. And it was really like 1 a.m. And a guy came over and said, "Oh, are you Izzy?" And I said, "Yeah." And he went, "Oh my God." And I went, "Oh my God." So I was so drunk. And then he just looked so heartbroken. And then and I was like, I'm sorry. Do you want a photo? And that still haunts me. But I was drunk. I was eating chicken like I was King Henry VIII.
Well, at least you care about it. If you didn't care, then it would be, more...
Yes, that's true. Yeah.
Do you find as well, because you were talking about the comedy that you liked and things you liked when you were younger, I presume there have been times when you maybe worked with people that you used to watch when you were younger or that inspired you. How was that for you? Was it a sort of moment of, realisation of where you are?
Well, I think it depends what I'm doing in that situation, as it were. Like, so I met Jim Bob from Carter the Unstoppable Sex Machine, which is a band who I adored when I was at school. They've still got a real cult following, and Jim Bob, who was the singer, and there was Fruit Bat, the guitarist, and at various times there were other members, but I was absolutely obsessed with them. I knew all their songs off by heart. I went to see them the first time when I was 13, and then I even sent them tapes of myself. I got backstage when I was about 15 and met them, and I couldn't talk because I was so overawed. And then I did a gig with Jim Bob from Carter years later at a gig that Robin Ince organised, and I felt like I was a teenager again. So and my friend Gavin was on as well, and he was really winding me up and being like, "I'm going to tell Jim Bob that you used to really love him," and blah blah. And then I was really sort of rude to him because I was so nervous. Like, I tried to be really casual, and he was like, "Oh, hi, I'm Jim," and I was like, "Hi, I'm Izzy. I'm going to get a coffee. Do you want anything?" And he was like, "Oh no, thanks. I've got one." And then I went, "I'm getting you a latte," like really aggressively, and it was. Yeah, but weirdly enough, he lives down the road from me now, and I know his wife, who's absolutely lovely, and I still love his music and love what those guys did. So, but it's very odd now. I see him in the street, and we've sort of read each other's books and given each other notes when we were writing our books, and so that feels now like he's, I suppose, Jim, who lives here, and I met Burkoff when he was in Man Down, and I've read all his plays, and that was more kind of, I didn't really get to know him very well, so I still felt kind of like, oh my God, it's Burkoff. But I think they say never meet your heroes, don't they? I think Jim Bob is the exception. He's absolutely lovely, but I can see why. What was it like when you met Paul McCartney? Was it like
very sort of daunting initially, because like he's the reason I learned to play guitar, and obviously because he's just one of those people it's so iconic and you're so familiar from so many different bits of footage. And there was a point where he was coming out of his office, and I just had done a casting. I was waiting around, and he's with like the guy who's like his assistant. And I thought, well, I have to go over and speak to him. And I was crossing the road, and behind him, and you can hear him going, "Well, where the hell were you?" And you're like, it's fucking him, And he was really nice, and I'm glad he was, because I don't know how I would have dealt with that. But you're so conscious as you do it. He's spent his whole life, since he was like early 20s in that situation. He
wouldn't have had a conversation about a dying parent on
the
train.
Exactly. Yeah, he's learnt. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, you just sort of and no, he was nice, and but yeah, it's and to be fair, like with mostly comedy as well, actually, because we sort of became like a thing where we were like the kid inside. You just start booking all the people, like Phil Kay being the first sort of one. Yeah. But we had Paul Daniels, for example, Paul Daniels and Debbie McGee.
That's the one. That's one that always sticks in my head for like just the sheer fact of the guy turned up. Paul Daniels turned up with Debbie McGee, which was kind of like, there's the two of them together, and it was. The nice thing was we had so much time because we interviewed them for a podcast, so we had all that time to get to know them. Because I think a lot of the time when you meet people that you really like, it's so brief that you feel like I didn't put over myself. Like you say, that angry thing, you feel like you've just been like quite abrupt and nothing else. And that there's
because when you're running a gig, you're like, you basically start by saying, "Stand over there." You come on from there, and you're like, "What the fuck?" But
so it was really nice doing the podcast with them because I felt like we actually put across our personalities and the fact that we love them as well, but in a nice, not scary, kind of stalkery way.
I think when you've got that short time with people, what it comes down to is you want them to want to be your friend, basically, and to think you're really cool.
Yeah.
And it can't really happen. That's the horrible truth.
No,
At best, they'll go, they were all right. They were nice. They're not going to be like, let's be pen pals. So that can be really hard to swallow. So I think that's kind of why people say never meet your heroes, because it's like it's never going to live up to the imagined encounter. But I think that is definitely what I was doing with Jim Bob. I was sort of kind of being like, you do that thing where you're like, well, they're not going to like me anyway, so I'll just be like, I'm getting you a latte, and then I won't have risked anything. It's so weird.
And the thing with Paul Daniels was great. I mean, because I remember like walking down to the venue that day and thinking, I'm just going to enjoy today, because it was like again, like for me particularly, and also for Glim, but I wanted to be a magician before I wanted to do anything else really. So the idea that this guy that used to watch on the telly, that he's sort of stepping through into reality, and there was a point in the evening where he asked me to set his props for him, and it's like, this is so weird. And he did a trick just for us as well, which was
just
amazing.
Backstage in a little magic trick.
Wow.
Yeah,
but I can imagine him being like that. Like I think that magicians, they've worked so hard in a very, very focused way. Like I think with comics, it's similar. It's complete meritocracy, really, isn't it? You cannot get anywhere if you don't have enough successful gigs. You just can't.
Yeah, it's true. And
there's no with comedy. It's so black and white. It's not like acting where some people think actors are great, some people think the same actor's terrible. There's a bit more ambiguity, but I think with magicians, they've really, really had to hone their craft in a way that some other arts don't quite have. And I think, I might be wrong, but I think most of them probably are very, they're very proud of what they've done. So it doesn't surprise me that he showed you a trick, because they've worked so hard at it. And if he could see that you were like genuinely interested in it, I can see that he'd be so passionate about magic that he'd be up for. It's not the same as a comic doing a bit of material backstage just for you, is it? That would just be so weird. It would be like the time I went to a show once in Edinburgh on my birthday, and I was the only person in the audience, and the woman still went ahead with it, and it was sort of amazing. But I was like, I feel under so much pressure to laugh.
That's horrendous.
I used to work at, well, she was really good. Like, it was a really amazing show. It was in a swimming pool. And so she would pop up and do these comedy poems and these bits of stand-up, then go and swim a few lengths.
Oh my God. It
was one of those really, I always go and see shows like
Where
this.
was that venue in Edinburgh? I don't remember that venue.
It was on Grassmarket. So it was quite near the Underbelly. It was fantastic, but I was just like, I really wish I had people with me to sort of share this incredible experience. And I just wish, and Bridget, I think one year Bridget did a show to one person, or maybe, I think she did a show to 3 people, but so I think maybe this is the least amount of audience. The least I ever did was 3 people and the rest were acts. I think there was a dog there as well. I met Chris Tarrant when I used to work behind the bar at the Cambridge Theatre when I first graduated. And there was a girl from my year who was in the show, and I was behind the bar, which was especially kind of sad for me. We graduated with the same status, and now I'm chopping your lemons and your buds.
What show out of interest was that?
It was Beautiful Game. It was a musical by Ben Elton and Andrew Lloyd Webber. And Chris Tarrant came. So our bar was the biggest bar, and if Andrew Lloyd Webber had any guests, they always came to our bar. And Chris Tarrant came in once and ordered his drink. And I thought, in that same way that you were kind of like, I've got to say something. So I was like, what can I say? What can I say that will make him remember me? Like, why do you want to be remembered? Why can't you just... So I said, so he ordered the drink, and I said, is that your final answer?
Oh, brilliant.
His response was so lovely. He laughed as if no one had ever said that to him. He was like, yeah, it is. And now as the years have gone by, I've thought that was such a lovely thing to do, because he really didn't have to do that. He could have been like, yeah, it is. Get my drink.
That's like, because we had, when we were interviewing Kate Robbins, I think it's the McCartney thing again, because I asked her about it.
Yeah, she's his cousin, isn't she?
That's right, And she was saying, like, he always, everyone always comes up to him and they always say thank you for the music. And well, she said one good thing. She went out for a meal with him in Soho, and he paid by cheque, and he said, oh, they'll never cash it. It's like, they never do. They always want to keep the thing. But this is the thing. I mean, when I met him, he was really, really nice. Every story I've ever heard of him, like when he's doing interviews, he always tries to make people comfortable. And I think that's a sign of a really good kind person, because it'd be so easy to be sick of it, because he's been doing it for like 60 years or whatever. So
Yeah.
But yeah, and then Paul Daniels, I think you're right as well. And I remember watching, just before we had him, or just after he came, I was watching like a countdown of Best Magicians, and they showed a clip of him doing the cups and balls thing that he's like really known for. And this was at like a working man's club in like 1970 something, and he did the same trick at Mostly. And it was just still as relaxed and brilliant, and you know, so he really cared about what he did, and it was just so beautiful to see. But yeah, it's exactly that. It's an art, isn't it? But you know, the fact that he didn't sort of phone it in when he was in like a sort of barn in Hitchin rather than like, you know, Broadway or something. But yeah,
he seriously enjoyed it, didn't he? You could see him really kind of reveling in the.
And we had, do you know, I don't know if you know Beck Hill.
Yes,
She was on as well, and she was doing one of her brilliant things with the drawings. And then you saw him like come out, you could see his sort of silhouette and watching it, and he was saying to her afterwards how great it was. So
that's great.
You know, people who still care about it that many years on, because he was 76, I think, something like that.
So it was not long before he passed away, sadly, was it? No. Actually, we had him just a few months before he passed away, which was even more special in a way. Sort of made it more special.
In the sense that it could have not happened. But
we've got. I don't know if it's too early to do. Well, no, actually, no. God, look at the time. We've got some. We've got a couple of questions on there.
I talked about the cable cars for about 20 minutes.
That was the best bit. That's the bit we're going to use.
We'll try and get some money from Heights of Abraham. It's fine. We'll try and make some money out of that.
Yes, you should definitely.
Yeah. Question. Right. What made you want to write your book? There's a question from Richard Anthony Morris.
Well, Richard, I had always thought about writing a book, but I didn't know what it would be. And then the publisher listened to my Radio 4 series, and then I had a meeting with them, and we had a chat about what it should be. And I thought, actually, I would be really up for writing a kind of book based on my stand-up bits and kind of expanding them into like general stuff about relationships. So so it was really a meeting, I suppose, which it's a bit of a boring answer.
It was a meeting. Next question.
But it had been something I'd always thought about. I guess I was waiting for the right opportunity to come along, and it felt right. And actually, I'm writing another book for Orion that I've just handed in the second draft of, and that hopefully will be out next year. And that's a novel, and that's been harder to write, but I've enjoyed it more, and I think it's better. Right. It's kind of got real people in it that I've kind of. Well, it's got, I think whenever you write anything, you're kind of basing it on real life in a way, aren't you? Or people you've met and stuff. So there are bits that people might go, I used to know someone like that in Matlock. Could it be them? But it is fiction. So, yes, that should be out next year.
Do you think writing the first one as a sort of semi-autobiography thing, that enabled you to feel you could write a novel? Because obviously it's such a different thing.
Yeah, maybe. I suppose it's a bit like an Edinburgh show. Like, you do the first one, you go, or even like doing a 20-minute set as opposed to a 10-minute one when you start out as a stand-up. You can't believe you'll ever do 20 minutes, and you do it, and then you think, can I do half an hour? Then you do that, and 10 minutes then seems really short. So I think, yes, in that sense, I suppose I had the more confidence to write a novel, because I was like, I have written a book that was X pages long, and at times with writing the first book I really wanted it to be a novel, because I thought actually it would be better if this happened, but because this is true, I can't add in a fictional character, and I can't. So in some ways I felt quite a bit restrained with the first one.
Do you find it weird, say, when you meet people who've read your book? So funny, I'm reading it at the moment, and I'm really enjoying it. But do you know, because I know it's sort of stand-up stuff as well, but because it's quite sort of personal, is that sort of weird thing where you write it not really considering who's going to read it, and then you meet someone and they know more about you than you might anticipate? Yeah,
but I think it's the same with stand-up as well, isn't it? Like, especially if you do an hour, it depends. Like Gary Delaney, who does gags, probably wouldn't feel like this person's seen me do an hour and they're going to know stuff about my relationship, because he's not that kind of comic. I think you get lots of different types, but if I do an hour, I can't not say quite personal stuff just because of the type of comic that I am. And I think it was the same feeling with the book. I think it was no more so than doing a show, actually.
Right.
But there is a weird thing because it's in print and you're not there when they read it. I suppose at a show, you're there with them. So I think it's an odd feeling printed, and you go, Yeah.
Well, you know how you did it and what context it was in and everything else, whereas they're reading it and they have their own
at any
pictures in their
time
head. I suppose it's
as
very
well.
different.
It's all strange.
Yeah, and radio for that reason is different, I think, because you create it and then you kind of let it go. And I think with a book, there's very much a feeling of letting it go, and then you can't tinker with it, which we're used to doing.
Yeah,
so you can't go, oh, actually, you know, even in an Edinburgh run, I'll be making tiny changes even in the 30th show.
Yeah.
Like, okay, bye, book.
Yeah.
Can't change it.
Yeah.
Another question we had from Malcolm Smith: are you still learning Welsh?
He wrote that in Welsh earlier as well. I know.
Yes,
Oh, was that what
I saw that? Yeah. I thought you translated it in your head. I was like,
that would be genius.
That was me.
I Google translated that earlier just to work it out, and I was like, oh, that's what he means.
God. You see, what happened was when I first met Ellis, I started with gusto because we were sort of wooing each other. Then I found it was quite a difficult language to learn. It's a very beautiful language, but it's quite different from English. And since we've had kids, I've got a renewed investment in learning it because I want them to speak more Welsh and I want my Welsh to improve. And over the years, we still speak quite a lot of Welsh in the house, but I want it to get better. So we'll always say bara instead of bread or llath instead of milk without thinking. And when we're out, or if the baby's tired, I'll say, oh, wedi blino, which is, you know, tired. And then we're out and I go, oh, I'm speaking Welsh. And that's such a lovely feeling. So but I will one day be fluent. So yes, I will continue.
It's quite a pretty language, isn't it, as well?
Yeah, it is. And also, I think learning any language when you're a bit older is so good for your brain. And I know all of us, for various reasons, haven't got a lot of spare time, but I think it is good. And there's a very good app called Say Something in Welsh, which doesn't do it by rote, so you're sort of not going S-E-S, you know, I went, you went. It just quickly makes you learn really good phrases. So
there's one my wife uses. She's in here, so she might say, which is very good. An app she uses every day, and she's like been learning German every day for like a year or something. But it's weird because it like sounds like it's looking at us because she's a photographer, and one of them said something like, what was it? He likes to sing songs, and she likes to take photographs. You're like, are they watching us? And there was something like, and there's one today. The actor doesn't have any money, which I thought, that's
appropriate.
That's like an episode of Black Mirror.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Duolingo, I can't even say it. Ironically, Duolingo is what it is.
Yes.
This is why I can't learn languages. But it's really weird. It's like, are they just watching us? It's like Alexa gone mad. But
God, yeah, that it will be like that in years to come.
It's kind of terrifying, isn't it? Because we've got them all around the house, and you just sort of take it as read, but it is quite sinister. And I don't know, but it is a bit frightening. But
it's when they pick up. It's when your 3-year-old they start to understand. My 3-year-old now they understand what he says, and I'm like, oh, for goodness' sake, like he doesn't even say Alexa properly yet. He still understands. Still understands it. It's like,
there was one when my dad was quite ill, and he was in this house, and we set up Alexa and stuff to try and make him use the radio and stuff, and just because he was sort of not really engaging anymore. But he was getting really angry with it when there was a friend around. So it just doesn't work. It doesn't fucking work at all, Melissa. Just,
Yeah, it's a very odd name. But it should be a name that doesn't sound like a name. It shouldn't be a name that sounds like it could be Melissa or Laura or something. I think it should just be like Robot or something. Because they had to brand it, of course it had to have.
But to be fair, I had stuck the word Alexa on the front of his like hospital table in front of him
there we go.
in Sharpie. So what can you do? But we probably should let you go. So I did want to ask you about Peep Show and lots of other things, but I don't want to keep you here for too long.
Peep Show was great. Peep Show was great. They're all really lovely.
Yeah. One quick thing to ask: was it weird? Was it weird? Was it hard going into something that was very well established? And also, once you'd come out of it, or once it finished, was it unusual going back to like filming things in a normal process rather than doing it the way you were doing it?
It was hard and easy going into something that was established. It was easy in the sense that it was exciting to know that the tone of it was established and that it was already successful, and that you weren't doing a pilot and wondering A, if it would ever go to series, and B, if you'd stay in it or get recast if it went to series, which you don't ever know, do you? But it was hard in the sense that I felt a lot of pressure, and I hadn't really done very much telly beforehand. I didn't know what a lot of technical terms were to do with filming, and I felt like very kind of green around the gills. So I think I was very, very quiet for the first series that I was in, and kind of kept my head down, didn't really chat. And then as the series went on, I thought, oh, it's okay, they haven't sacked me, okay. And then and even while we were filming it, because you sort of do one a year, or maybe even one every 2 years sometimes, you're sort of doing other bits and bobs in between. And yes, I'd say it was probably weirder going back to Peep Show than doing it the other way, because it always just feels a bit alien to be looking down a lens. It feels more technical in some ways.
It's a weird thing, I suppose, for when you're playing a character to be looking down a lens, because I guess that's something you do where you don't look down. If you're presenting,
presenter or something,
that's fine. That's what you do, and I find that's fine. But yeah, if you're suddenly then going, I'm looking down a lens, but I'm also playing a character, and I'm also reacting to things that are not here, but they are here, and it's a very
it was. And I think so. We always had a read through the scene together, and then you'd do the crew rehearsal. I seem to remember you do a crew rehearsal with each other, so you kind of get to do it twice, or you block it with each other, so you get to do it twice, and then one of you would be replaced with the camera. But I'd always try and remember as much as I could of what David had done in those couple of rehearsals, so that I could sort of react off the camera as if it was him. So it was always very important to have those couple of reads with the actual actor.
So you couldn't, when you were actually doing it to the camera, then you couldn't see them at all. Then you were literally looking.
No,
down.
Because if they'd been in your eye line, it would have been really odd, I think. Yeah. I mean, you could hear them, of course, because they'd read in their lines, but they were often in the room next door, kind of shouting their lines. Yeah, and then the monologues always, the internal monologues for him. Often they have to just get so much footage of you to cover them. So you just find yourself kind of nodding at the camera for ages, because they just need footage so that he can be looking at you while he's talking. It was such a brilliant show.
And would they read those out as well? So would you hear his internal monologues?
The timing.
The timing. So you kind of hear them but not react, but also react, but not react to what he's thinking, because you can't hear. It's a really kind of...
you can't react because you can't hit, because your character can't hear it.
That.
But you want to vary what you're doing, because you don't want it just to be 15 seconds of you nodding, because that feels like that wouldn't be very interesting to watch. So in that sense, it is a very technical show. I think you're thinking,
I think what's so great about it is because initially when it started, you were sort of more aware of the device, but then as it goes on, you sort of forget about it. But that shows how well it's done. Like the people walking past, maybe being the perspective. It is. I think it's such a great sitcom. I think it's one of the best, more modern day sitcoms, I think, for a long time. So it was great that you were such a big part of it. It must have been great to do and to look back on. I imagine.
Definitely is.
From the heights of Abraham to there. Well, thanks, Izzy, for this and for joining us. And hopefully, when we are allowed to do gigs again, come back to hit.
I'd love to. Yeah,
it'd be great.
Thanks. It's been really fun.
Yeah, take care, and we'll hopefully see you soon.
Yes.
Yeah, see you soon.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
So that was Isy Suttie.
Certainly was.
Yeah.
Certainly was indeed.
That was good fun. I enjoyed that.
Yeah, it was great. And it was a shame. I wanted to talk to her more about Peep Show, as we sort of said at the end, because I do really, really like it. And, but then we could have talked about lots of other things as well. She's done lots of interesting things. And a little plug, because as I said in the interview I'm reading at the moment, do buy her book, because it's very good. The actual one, How I Tried and Failed to Avoid Adulthood Forever, which I'm reading at the moment.
I'll have to borrow it off you when you've read. I'm not going to buy
my
it.
Kindle.
I just have to borrow it off. Oh, it's on your Kindle. Oh,
yeah, I'll lend you my Kindle.
You just give me a whole device, and then I'll just read all your books.
I'll copy it out. I'll write it out for you.
It's funny because I never really get on with Kindles. Like I don't read enough books, to be honest. I don't really read a lot, but like I bought a Kindle to try and read more, and I just never really got into it. Like having them on there, but I've just bought Philip Schofield's autobiography, so. But I actually bought the book because I was like, I wanted to buy the book and actually read the book. And I don't know, I feel like that's probably the only way I'm going to read now. Is read actual books. I'm not very good at
Well, I sort of felt the same, but funnily enough, I got it at the beginning of lockdown, and I've just read so much compared to what I would normally do.
Yeah.
Like I don't even know how many books I've read since then, but which is very rare for me. And I sort of held off having them for a while, but it's good. It's handy, and it's nice. It's better than having a hardback, I find.
True, hardbacks are a bit of a pain. Yeah, I have to say, yeah.
Is the Philip Schofield one a hardback?
It is, yeah. It is slightly annoying to read in bed especially when you fall asleep and it lands on your face. It's quite heavy. It's quite heavy.
But at least when you're on the train stuff, you can show off that you've got the Philip Schofield book. And also, you sound like you said daughter biography. I don't know if that's like...
And it's autographed as well.
Is it?
I have got an autographed copy. Yeah, because I've didn't one Philip Schofield autograph from however many years ago, 30 odd years ago, isn't enough. So I needed a more recent one to go with it. Because I already have one. Do you know? I haven't checked. I need to go back and look at my other one, but I had one from him. God, when he was doing Going Live, so it was like way back in the 80s, late 80s. And it was at Luton
Airport. Or
Luton Airport. Yeah, I was with my that's right. Yeah, and I was with my cousin, my mum's cousin, and I think we were picking someone up from an airport, and Philip Schofield was there.
Gordon the Gopher,
yeah. And we
Sarah Green.
We were like, I really remember that I was too nervous, but I think my mum or someone went and got the autograph from Philip Schofield.
Your mum or someone,
I don't know, someone else.
One of your staff.
There was people around me.
And that's the thing about Kindle. You don't really want someone to sign a Kindle.
This is it. It's not the same. No, but yeah, no. I'm going back to Isy Suttie, like,
which is why we're here.
Which is what we just interviewed. But I was really, I always like it when you talk to people that have similar taste in comedy, because her sort of style of the sort of things she does and the things that she liked growing up were very similar. There was lots of talking about shows that I was like, I like that show. Yeah, I like that show.
Yeah, all the way through, like the day to day. And then also, even like her picking Phil Kay out of all the people to talk about, because if someone likes him, it's a good sign.
Yeah.
But it's nice, and there's lots of sort of parallels. I mean, obviously, when she was talking about the bands and stuff, I was thinking about that, because that was very much like my beginning. But it's nice, and again, sort of encouraging to hear someone living the sort of dream, so to speak, but who's nice and who's done all those things, and I don't know, just sort of remains genuine, really, and so it's nice, very nice. We've got, if you haven't heard them before, we've got plenty of other episodes available in all the places where you listen to your podcasts.
Yes.
We have the various ones we've recorded in lockdown with people like Rory Bremner, Bobby Davro, Jan Ravens, Josh Widdicombe, Mark Morris and Blue Tones, all these people. And also the older ones with Phil Jupitus, Richard Herring, a couple of them, Sean Hughes,
Paul Daniels,
as we mentioned tonight.
Yeah, there's
that was
loads.
nice as well. I was going to say it was nice how she connected with what we were talking about Paul Daniels, and about the idea of, him caring about what he does and her understanding.
Yeah, it's so true, isn't it? Yeah. It was definitely obvious that night.
And I think because he sort of picked up fairly early on in our chat that we were genuinely fans and that we liked the same sort of things. I remember us connecting over Bruce Forsyth as well. Talking about doing Strictly and stuff.
I think it's the only time I've ever met someone that I vaguely, well, not say vaguely, I know I like a lot, but in terms of I'm a fan of, that I've actually ever said I'm a fan. Like we both kind of said at the beginning of the interview with him, we're fans. I don't think I've ever admitted that to someone I've met. I thought, because we were saying it with Izzy, like you're not normally, you don't have long enough with someone like you with Paul McCartney, so that you're not going to really express that probably other than just say nice to meet you or hi, hello, or something really brief. But to actually get to say we're fans, and then we'll talk about how you really into magic growing up, how we had the magic sets, all the things, but then sort of justify it, but not sound like just a crazy kind of I really like you, but actually kind of talk in a nice,
But it was like it was the whole evening, like you were saying. There was plenty of time to sort of have detail of conversation, which you don't normally get if you're not recording a podcast and if you're not meeting them in that sort of scenario. It was great. And that's what's been really good about these podcasts as well, because we've just had the chance to have proper conversations with people again, but in a more relaxed environment rather than when we're doing a gig, which is always a bit more frenetic.
Exactly.
But do listen to the other episodes, and we've got some more coming up. We're recording one with Lucy Porter, for example, and then Ruth Miller in the coming weeks, so they'll be available too, and hopefully eventually we'll be able to do shows again sometime in the not too distant future.
Yes. So check out everything. I mean, everything, you can find everything mostly comedy related at mostlycomedy.co.uk. So that's the simplest way of finding our stuff. Or obviously on Twitter, if you follow at Doggett Ephgrave, or Instagram is mostly comedy, or mostly _ comedy is Instagram, isn't it? And and Facebook is Doggett and Ephgrave. So yeah, all those things.
And my mobile number is But yeah, do check it out. Do keep supporting the club, and yeah, I mean, I'm impressed that it's still going 12 years on. That's not something we ever really considered.
Nope.
And you know, when you look at the journey from that first night to the people who have played the club, which is a ridiculously long list of many of the best people in comedy, it's just a bit insane, really.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, here's hoping it goes on for maybe another 12 years. I don't know. When do we pass it on to your kids and stuff?
Depends what it's worth by then.
Yeah.
I don't think they'll want it.
No, probably not. But yeah, thanks for joining us for this episode, and hopefully we'll have you back with us, ears and brain and all the rest of it, soon.
Yes.
See you soon.
Bye.